Good evening, Vanchika. Okay, I'm Rahul Saha, and today we'll be talking about the population and the most important parts of this chapter, the topics of this chapter, the J-shaped and the L-shaped, or the logistic and S-shaped, you can say, S-shaped and J-shaped growth curves. Okay, so when we talk about population, good evening, Ayman. Good evening, Tarun. So, Ayman, Tarun, are one of you biotech students? Any one of you? Biotechnology? So, I'll get back to you later on then the biotech students. Because we are planning to conduct. Yeah, yeah. Ayman. No. Okay. So, let's start with population. Okay. So, what is population? Then we'll move on to population density and then directly the growth curves. Okay. So, what is population? So, population, as we all are aware of the fact already, that population, if you talk about, so population is defined as the total number of individuals, as the total number of individuals in a specific individuals. First of all, total number of individuals of a specific species or of a species in a specific geographical area. And when we combine all the populations together of the species all over the world in various geographical areas, then we get the species population as a whole. Or then we reach the species level in ecology, right? In a specific given geographical area. And what more? Still the definition is incomplete. They must be able to interbreed, can interbreed, means can mate under natural conditions, because I have told you once the speciation happens, the two different species they cannot mate, and even if they can mate, they cannot ever produce a viable and viable and fertile offspring, right? So the thing is they'll be able to interbreed under natural conditions. Natural conditions to produce fertile offsprings and function also as a biotic community or a unit of biotic community, I should be saying, to produce fertile offspring and functions as a unit, a specific unit of biotic community. Okay. Now, similar populations of a species occupying different geographical areas, okay, are also known as sister populations of a species. Like all the frogs, Rana, Tigrina, and water hyacinth plants found in a pond form the populations of frog and water hyacinth of that pond. Now, the Rana Tigrina frog found in different forms or different ponds form the local population and are all will be known as sister populations, right? So, in a geographical area, the population is further divisible. This is a neat question. In a geographical area, the population can be further divided or is further divisible into subgroups. Okay. The population can be further divided into subgroups, and these specific subgroups are known as deans. Okay. The individuals of a population are always capable of interbreeding among themselves. But the chances of the sexual communication are more between the members of the same dean. Okay, that is the thing. Sexual reproduction probability is higher within the member of the same dean. Same dean, okay, of that very population. Okay. Now, due to this mating ability, what we have is a free flow of genes or gene flow in a specific species that we have already talked about gene flow, migration, immigration. Okay. So now coming on to the characteristics of a population. So what are the specific characteristics that pertain to a specific population? If we come to a characteristic of a population, good evening Alok. If we come to specific species of a population, okay, so we're talking about population here. So characteristics of a population. Okay. Now there are various characteristics of a population. Okay. Number one is population size. Okay. And population density. Okay. Each one we'll be talking about, or we'll be describing each one in detail. Number two is birth rate slash natality rate. Birth slash natality rate. Number three is death slash mortality rate. Okay. Number four is the dispersal. Okay. Then if you come to number five is age distribution. Okay. Number six is population growth form. Population growth, the form of population growth, that is the population growth form. Okay. Then number seven is the biotic or reproductive potential. Very, very important for NEET examination. Number 7 point. Number 7 and number 8 are very important. Biotic or a reproductive potential. This 7, 8, one more will be 9. These three are very, very important. This thing. Then we'll be having environmental resistance. Okay. We'll come to each in detail. Okay, the resistance offered by the environmental conditions towards the growth of the population or inhibiting the growth of the population. Okay. Then we have carrying capacity, the maximum number of individuals that the environment can carry given or pertaining to the amount of resources that it possesses, that defines or that can describe or that can decide specifically how much number or how many or what is the number of the individuals, that the maximum number of individuals that can inhabit a specific habitat. Okay, that is the carrying capacity. So we'll talk about each one in detail, just giving the gist of it right now. Sex ratio, then we have got age ratio. Okay. Under age you will be having pre-reproductive age, then reproductive age, then post-reproductive. We'll come into that also. We'll come to that. Then 12.1 is population fluctuations and population cycle. And population cycles. So these are the specific characteristics, the fundamental characteristics pertaining to any population. Okay. So now first of all, coming on to population density. Okay. Now when we talk about population density, what we have is so population density, or without talking about population size, you cannot talk about population density. Okay, so first let's talk about population size, then come on to the densities. So population size indicates what? By applying simple common sense, we can say that population size indicates the total number, number of organisms of a specific species or of a species present in a specific geographical area. Still the definition is incomplete. Specific geographical area, but that can change. So you have to write at a given time. Okay. Specific geographical area at a specific time. So this word specific is very very important here. So you cannot say that in 2012 in Lucknow there were 80 lakh people, in 2020 there may be 1 crore or more, right? You have to know the time, and if you want to go into deeper details you have to also mention which month of 2012 we were talking about, okay, or again which day of 2012 did the counting of the population occur. Okay, so you have to mention that detail also if you are asked in depth. Okay, so the intricate details must be mentioned if they are asked by the government or they are asked by the, you can say, people of the state or country or the city itself. Okay, so for population size of a species will always vary in different geographical areas and also in different periods. That is a very very fundamental concept that I have always talked about. Different selection pressure, different environmental resistance, that will decide the carrying capacity, and also different seasons. Okay, so seasons means it may be low, or the population size of an area will depend upon what all things. If I talk about the biotic potential, so what all things will it depend upon? It will depend upon the availability of food. Okay, what do you need for survival? The first thing and foremost thing is food availability. If you do not have food, how will you proliferate and how will you increase your population number? Food availability. Okay, predator prey relationship, so predation pressure, I can say. You need to hunt and there should be enough amount or enough number of prey available, right? Weather conditions, they play a very very significant role, whether it's snowy or it's windy or it's very very, you can say, dry, drought has occurred or too much flooding. So all those things they'll keep into, or they'll play a huge role and they come into great effect, right? So the population size may be low during stressful conditions, during conditions of heavy stress, heavy selective pressure, you can say insurmountable formidable selective pressure, like you can say in case of Siberian cranes. Okay, at Bharatpur wetlands the population size is less than 10 in any year, but for locusts in African countries the population size may be in millions during swarming. For human beings also the population size is represented by total number of human beings determined by the government operated, you can say, census. So according to 2001 census, what happened was human population of India was 1027 million. Okay, but it was 1210 million in 2011 census after 10 years. So it showed a growth of almost 183 millions. Okay, so it keeps on fluctuating. The thing is, in case of conducive conditions it will proliferate, in case of heavy selective pressure it will plummet. But the thing is, natural selection always plays a role. In case of stressful conditions, natural selection will become very very dominant, and if you are not able to adapt, again not acquire variation, not adapt, not change the protein conformation epigenetic or genetic way, epigenome or genome, you must overexpress, underexpress, silence or change the conformation of the protein that you are synthesizing, okay, by translation process, thereby changing the trait or the character, then only you are able to, or you will be able to cope up and survive. Once you can survive, you will be giving an edge to that species because they will be having comparative reproductive success and also, you can say, differential reproductive success over their counterparts. Okay, that is neo-Darwinism and Darwinism. They keep on playing that same role again and again. Okay. Now coming on to the population density. Population density. Evolution has a major role to play. Always keep that in mind while studying ecology or organisms and populations chapter. Evolution is the core of all these chapters. Okay. So population density is the number of individuals of a species per unit area or volume. You have to give an example. I can say that the number of animals per square kilometer. Best example. Just take the per square kilometers. Okay. This must be the unit. Or number of trees per hectare. Number of phytoplanktons, if you say, then you have to talk about water. So it will be per cubic liter of water. That's why I said volume here, or I wrote volume. So number of phytoplanktons, if you measure, you cannot measure per area of land. They reside in water. So phytoplanktons per centimeter cube of water. Okay, that will come under the volume range. That's why I told you, or I mentioned specifically per unit area or volume, right? So mathematically, if you write the formula of population density, okay, that is equal to n by s, where n is number of individuals in a region of a specific species, because you cannot collectively call the population of ducks and turkeys together. Duck population is different, turkey population is different. So number of individuals of a specific species, okay, in a region, that is capital N. Capital S will be the number of unit areas. Number of unit area slash volume. We are counting in terrestrial region, land or water, depends upon either you will be calculating in area or cc, centimeter cube, volume. Okay. Now population of an area is described on the criteria of the three types of criteria. You have three types of parameters you have on which you can base your population present in a specific area. So number and kind of individuals, that is the number one. What is the number and kind of individuals? Number and kind of individuals in a species. Number two would be, what is the area, a given area or volume, space, you can call it area, you can call it volume. Then you can say, what is the time period? Specific time is very, very important when you calculate the number of population or even population density. Okay. Now, what does a population density reflect? What is the physical meaning? If the population density is very high, what does that mean? It means you have more of population size. More of population size means you have been able to adapt, you have been able to take the natural selection, you have been able to sustain natural selection, you have been able to withstand natural selection, means you have come out victorious. Victorious in the sense that you have been able to adapt, which is the real essence of evolution. You have been able to acquire variation, you have been able to cause change in the trait via, you can say, upregulation, downregulation of your genes via epigenetic factor, or via your acquisition of mutations, or if it has happened in more than 1% of the population, then acquisition of SNP single nucleotide polymorphism resulting in the conformational change of the protein, and then you have been able to attain success. So population density PD, if it is high, it reflects directly the success of a species in a given area. In a given area. Okay. Now we know birth rate and natality rate, very easy. Okay, I'll just give you the definition. Because we have talked multiple times about it when we were talking about genetic drift also. Okay. So birth rate is what? It is generally expressed as number of births per 1000 individuals of a population per year. That is known as birth rate per year. So when you talk about death rate, it will be the same as birth rate, just the death rate or fatality or mortality. Mortality rate. So that will be the number of deaths, number of demises, number of deaths per 1000 individuals of a population per year. That is known as death rate. Now if we talk about dispersal, dispersal is what? It's a pretty easy term, dispersal. Dispersal means the population size and density of a given area is again never a constant quantity, never ever. It will keep on changing. It's a variable quantity. It keeps on varying, keeps on changing from time to time. Due to what? Due to movement of individuals at one time or the other time during their life cycle. So entry of certain individuals of the same species into an area from an outside region is known as immigration. This we have also talked about previously. And while departure of the individuals of the same species from an area or from a specific area under consideration to any outside region will be known as immigration. So immigration, they play a vital role, pivotal role in dispersal. Okay. So immigration increases the population size and density, while immigration will, by common sense, decrease the population size and density. Okay. But the feature or the prospect of immigration is it will decrease the population size and density in that specific area, but keep in mind wherever that species are dwelling, they are venturing, it will add more and more of area for exploration to that species, and if they are able to adapt, they will be able to proliferate in any other area also, rather except the given area that it has already adapted in, and that will be a great source of positivity, a great source of success for the overall proliferation, for the overall enhancement in the number of individuals pertaining to that same species. That is how immigration is a pivotal dynamic, okay, when it comes to species proliferation and enhancement, okay, and success. Now we come to age distribution. So when we come to age distribution, we have rapidly growing or expanding population, that I'll tell you. But first we have something known as pre-reproductive. Okay, so let's talk about the definition first before going on to the details. The relative abundance the relative abundance or percentage of the organisms of various age groups. Of various age groups in the population is called age distribution of population. Age distribution of population. A pretty easy term. Okay. So in a population there will be an existence of three age groups. Okay. The percentage of organisms of various age groups. So there will be three different types of populations or species. Means suppose you have age 30, age 40, age 60 kind of individuals of the same species, so they will be divided into various age groups so that they form the percentage of that specific age group in that population. So what we have done, our scientists have done is, the ecologists have divided any population into three age groups. Number one, if we take human population, Homo sapiens, number one is pre-reproductive. Number two, if I see, that is reproductive. Okay. Number three, if I see, that is post-reproductive. So we have on our table three types of age groups. Now, this is, you can say, less than 20 years because you attain puberty at 10 or 12 at this stage, but you do not go for marriage at 10 or 12, right? You go for marriage after age 20 mostly. So it is less than 20 years. Reproductive is from 20 to 40 years. Even though we can produce sperm, still we die because we have type A spermatogonia, which are never lost because type B is differentiated and type A is formed again via mitosis. So males can reproduce throughout their life. If they are healthy, they can produce sperms, and females also, they'll attain menopause by the age 50, 55. Okay, so but the thing is, after 40 we do not go for any kind of reproductive ideas because we need to manage our family also, right, from the monetary or economical perspective. Post reproductive is after 40. After 40 one doesn't want to have any further kids, again due to financial perspective and family planning. Okay, so this is how human population is divided. Okay, now we can have also rapidly growing population, also known as expanding population, means high birth rate, low death rate. Okay, so here what will happen in case of rapidly growing population? Rapidly growing or expanding population okay. So what we'll be having is high birth rate, then low death rate. Okay, so there will be more number of young individuals in the population. So if you want to make a graph of it, you can make this kind of graph, that this is the statistical representation, okay, pyramidal representation. So this will be more and more young, pre-reproductive maximum. Okay, then reproductive, and very less, very old individuals will be very less in number. That is post-reproductive. They will be pretty minuscule in number compared to the pre-reproductive one. okay, that is rapidly growing. Then you will be having stable or stationary population, means it has equal birth and death rate. So population shows zero population growth, you can say. So stable will be drawn like this. You can have two similar pyramids. Okay. Then like this, then like this. That is stable. If you talk about declining population, okay, under declining population, we will be having higher death rate like Italy, Japan, because more and more aged people are there. Okay, so aged people will die sooner. So pre-reproductive will be like this. Reproductive will be more. And again, a lot of deaths. Post-reproductive will be a lot of people post-reproductive. This is a declining population. So if you want to measure the four basic processes that affect the population density of an area as a whole, so I can draw a bar diagram, not even a bar diagram, a simple flow chart. Like if I put population density at the center, okay. So minus means it will reduce population density. Who will reduce? Mortality. Or what factor will reduce? Mortality. Okay, mortality. Okay. Then natality will increase population density, means birth. So I can put a plus sign here. Okay. Emigration will decrease, just like I had explained. Emigration. For population density N, that is E, that is death rate D, this is birth rate B, and immigration will increase it again. Increase the population density I. So you can understand it, comprehend it by this method also. So we can have positive growth, okay, if more individuals are added than lost. As a cumulative measure, we can have positive growth, but if individuals are lost more than they are added, then the population will show negative growth. Again, if it becomes stationary, okay, so the net number or the population density, if it remains constant, then it will show zero growth. So growth of a population can also be expressed by the following mathematical formula, which is NT equal to N naught plus B plus I minus D minus E. Birth, okay, this is immigration, this is death, this is emigration. Okay. NT is the final population size. And N naught is the, you can say, initial population size. Initial population size. Okay. So this is all about your population density, okay, birth rate, death rate, then age distribution, population size, okay. So now we'll be coming on to the most important topic, that is the growth curve or models. How do we define growth curve? What are growth curve models and why are they essential in a population? So growth curve and models. So once we talk about growth curve and models, we have why are they needed and what are growth curves. So growth curves once we talk about, so growth of a population is what? If you are observing growth in a population, then growth of a population can be expressed by a mathematical expression known as growth curve. Known as growth curve. Now, once you have been able to master this growth curve, which is pretty easy mathematically, don't get afraid or worried, don't be scared, it is pretty easy. Okay, so it just shows that in which logarithm of total number of individuals in a population, okay, or the growth curve shows that in which logarithm of total number of individuals in a population is plotted against the time factor. That's all. Okay, so growth curves represent what? They represent nothing but interaction between the biotic potential and the environmental resistance, which can overpower whom. Okay, that is the thing it does. So a model or a growth model shows the specific and predictable pattern of growth of a population over time. So in your course you have two basic types of growth curve which will be asked in board examination and NEET examination. You have sigmoid growth curve. Okay. You have two basic types of growth curves. You have a sigmoid growth curve. Also it is known as S-shaped growth curve. Also it is known as logistic growth curve. Then the second type of growth curve what we have is, we have the J-shaped growth curve, okay, or exponential or geometric. J-shaped slash exponential slash geometric growth curve. So these are the two growth curves which are given in your specific syllabus. Okay. Now, when we have different types of growth curves, we should study each one in detail specifically. Okay. Now, when we read each one in detail, okay, the thing is, we'll commence with the first growth curve, which is known as the sigmoid or S-shaped growth curve. So I'll draw the growth curve for you. Sigmoid or S-shaped growth curve. So what we have is, this side if I draw, the y-axis here, x-axis 0, 0. This axis is time. Time is increasing in this direction. This is population size. Is again increasing. Okay. Then we have various phases. Okay, S-shaped curve. Okay. This is S-shaped curve that I am drawing. So till here it will be lag phase, LAG. Now this one will be the positive acceleration phase. Okay. This is the exponential phase. This is the negative acceleration phase. Negative acceleration. This one is the stationary phase. Stationary phase. So now once we have drawn the graph, just let's look at how to analyze and how to interpret this specific graph. Okay. Number one is the sigmoid or S-shaped growth curve that we are talking about is the logistic growth curve. It is shown by specifically yeast cells and all other most of the organisms. Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is the unicellular eukaryote, a protist. Okay. Now the first phase is the lag phase here. Now what is lag phase? Lag means slowness in the growth, gradual growth. So in this phase the individuals adapt themselves to the new environment, and this can lead to no growth or very minuscule or little increase in population. So it is again the first major impact of natural selection. The media is present. Suppose yeast cells are grown in a media containing put in a petri dish, so the yeast cells will require time in order to adapt to the media. Suppose you are put in a environment like I had showed you in the ecology, nudation, then you have the founder species, so you will require time. Then a lot of serial species will there or serial communities will be there, and then the climax community will be reached. Same way you need to adapt, again acquire variation. If at all you are able to adapt, then only you will be able to proliferate later on, right? Again natural selection theory, and again reproductive differentiability, differential reproduction, and comparative reproductive success. So same way, if you have been able to adapt, then only you can proliferate or increase your number, and that will invariably take time. So the time taken for acquiring adaptation or for acquiring variation, which will lead to the acquisition of adaptation or the display or the portrayal of adaptation, okay, that is known as the lag phase. So time to adapt, you can show growth, no or little increase or negligible increase in population number. Okay. Then number two is the positive acceleration phase. Positive acceleration phase. Now in this phase what happens is, it is the period of slow increase in population during the very beginning. Means once you have been able to adapt, now you will increase your population number gradually. Once you have been able to sustain or withstand natural selection, now you are getting to commence the process of reproduction, right? So in the first stage or during the first few hours or first few minutes, depending upon the culture and the species, you are showing increase in the population number, but that is quite gradual. Okay, that is known as positive acceleration phase. Slow increase or gradual increase in population at the very beginning. Now number 3 is the logarithmic or exponential phase. So the exponential phase is also known as logarithmic phase. Okay. So here the thing is, in this specific period, what will happen? You have been able to completely survive, completely tackle, sustain and withstand natural selection. Now you will be able to use the resources which are at your disposal, and then you will be rapidly increasing the population number. You will be devouring, you will be eating all the available food and nutrients, vitamins, minerals, water, right? And then you will be able to increase and proliferate the species number and take your species number to a great spike. There will be a spike in the species number, that is known as rapid rise in population due to rapid use of resources. Okay. And rapid increase will happen. You will be able to see rapid increase in the number of cells. Now stationary slash now you have negative acceleration phase, or you can call it deceleration phase. Since acceleration is a vector quantity showing both magnitude and direction, it could be your deceleration phase. Now here what happens, there is the rise of the population which was very rapid in the logarithmic phase. This declines. Still rise occurs with a gradual rise, but when you compare it to the rise in the population, or the rate of the growth of population, or acceleration in the logarithmic phase, then it fails in comparison, or it lags behind that acceleration value of, or which was noticed in the logarithmic phase. Why? Because what is happening is, finally you are reaching the carrying capacity, because the resources are becoming limited and the number of individuals are devouring or using up or eating all the resources, and thereby very less amount of resources are available. Therefore, on account of this specific fact, the number of proliferation or the number of reproductive events are reducing, because you need to be metabolically highly active when you are reproducing. The cells are reproducing. G1 phase, G2 phase, S phase, G1S, G2M, before that G0 to G1 jump, then G1 to S checkpoint jump, then G2 to M checkpoint jump, in the M phase, metaphase to anaphase checkpoint transition. That requires a lot of metabolic energy, right? That is getting plummeted and it is being reduced. Okay, then we reach the stationary or plateau phase. In the end, we reach the stationary or plateau phase. So last is the stationary slash plateau phase. So in this phase, what happens is, finally, eventually the growth rate becomes stable. Very important for NEET examination. The growth rate you would be seeing, or you might have noticed also, the growth rate becomes stable. Okay, because why? The rate of mortality and the rate of natality become equal. Rate of natality is equal to rate of mortality. Why is it happening? So why do you have net zero growth? There is growth, but net growth is zero. Just like in physics, plus minus net charge is zero. Okay, so net growth is zero. Because you have reached the carrying capacity of that environment of the, or the habitat. The carrying capacity is also known as the upper asymptote of that habitat or the environment. Upper asymptote of that habitat or environment, or you have reached the carrying capacity of that environment, because as far as the resources present in that environment is concerned, only that many individuals are allowed to live. because more than that the resources will get devoured and the environment will be becoming unstable. The entire ecology of that, or the ecological aspect, will be completely, you can say, it will become unstable, right? So the biodiversity then will become unstable if the ecology gets destabilized, or you can say the ecosystem gets destabilized there. Okay, so again that ecosystem chapter is very important once you relate it to this organisms and populations chapter. So the ecosystem will get destabilized. You have a specific amount of resources, only resources will not increase by itself. So what will happen is growth rate will eventually become equivalent to the death rate, because you are devouring the nutrients, and because of that, because of the lack of nutrients, the death is happening. Again the death will result in the accumulation or the increase of the resources, because all the proteins, minerals, fats, vitamins will be again transferred to that specific ecosystem, and then again that will be devoured by the organisms which are being born, and the cycle will keep on going, and you will have a plateau phase, okay, which will be sustained. Now mathematically, if you talk about this thing, this is specific growth curve, S-shaped growth curve, logistic growth curve, sigmoid growth curve, then you have the formula dn by dt equal to Rn k minus n by k. If you take simple common, okay, mathematics, if you take common here, so Rn, multiply it with 1 minus n by k. Okay, that is very, very simple. Okay, 1 minus n by k. Okay, so here if you see, what are the different meanings, or what is the meaning of these different, you can say, attributes present in this specific equation. So small r, what does it mean? It means intrinsic rate of natural increase. Okay, intrinsic rate of natural increase means what is the rate of your reproduction? Okay, puberty. So how much time do you take to reproduce if you are considering a cell? Okay, it is intrinsic rate of natural increase. Capital N is nothing but population size. dn by dt is what? Differential, because we are taking it at each instant. Okay, so rate of change in population size. Okay, so this is nothing but rate of change in population size. Okay. Small k is the carrying capacity. I'll come to carrying capacity right now. Carrying capacity. Okay. And 1 minus n by k, capital N by k, this one is the environmental resistance. 1 minus n by k is the environmental resistance. So this question can be asked for a weightage of 5 marks if you write, if you draw the graph, explain each and every step and write this thing, and also write what do the each and every variable or attribute in this equation refer to or mean. You will get full 5 out of 5 marks. You will be bestowed upon with full marks. Okay. So sigmoid curve was also, one more thing I'll tell you, it was described by Wellhurst, okay, in 1839. So it is also known as Wellhurst-Pearl logistic growth curve. Logistic growth curve. Okay. So now two things remain. What do you mean by environmental resistance? So I had explained to you, I'll explain to you again. So 1 minus n by k, if you talk about, so in nature, the full biotic potential is never realized. Okay, Now before that I should tell you biotic potential, then let's talk about biotic potential. Okay, biotic potential, reproductive potential. So it is defined as the inherent capacity of a population the inherent capacity of a population to increase in number under optimal environmental conditions. That is your R. Optimal environmental conditions. That is small r only, which was there in the equation. Okay. So it is calculated as the multiple of number of youngs produced each reproduction and number of reproductions in a given period of time. Okay. So if a biotic potential is left unchecked, what could happen? The thing is, the number of any species will soon become extremely more. It will be overcrowded, it will finish up, it will devour, it will reach the carrying capacity, it will surpass the carrying capacity, it will be able to quench all the resources present in that specific habitat and will cause extreme ecological destability or instability. Okay, it will destabilize the complete ecological system or that ecosystem, because it has completely devoured, it has completely used up all the resources present. Okay, so now what will happen? It will itself notice its own population decline, because there is no more resource, there is no more food. Where it will go? It will either have to venture somewhere else. If it cannot, it will see a rapid population decline. That is why when we come to environmental resistance, okay, the nature is a kind of selfish entity, because when we come to environmental resistance, the biotic potential is never ever realized, because conditions are rarely ideal. You will never see completely ideal conditions. You will have hailstorm, you will have rain, you will have shortage of food, you will have shortage of prey for the predator, and so on. So conditions will never be ideal. If you talk about abiotic factor, you will have non-availability of food and shelter since some time of the year. You will be having natural calamities like drought, cloud bursts, floods, fires, tsunamis, temperature fluctuations, accidents, etc. Then you will be having various attack of various kinds of pathogens. Okay, bacteria, fungi, parasites, predators. Okay, predators coming in from any other ecosystem in search of food. That may become very overwhelming. That may be a very overwhelming, you can say, predator that may decrease your number. So it keeps on happening. Okay, so the sum of all these inhibitory factors is only known as environmental resistance. Okay, so there is a real, you can say, actual increase is the balance between biotic potential, okay, and environmental resistance. So if that is, you can say, in equilibrium, you will have a stable ecosystem. Okay, so the next part, or the next curve, the J-shaped curve, we will be discussing in next class and finish off this chapter, and we'll also discuss parasitism, mutualism, amensalism, commensalism and all that, and we finish off this chapter. I hope you are able to comprehend all the topics that were taught today. If you have had any kind of queries, you can post your queries on my personal number. I'll be replying as soon as possible. Okay, then thanks a lot. Let's